I'm calling this one an in to out bridge. Might look a little funny, but trust me, it's a good one. It's gonna activate the hips and glutes and potentially help increase your hip range of motion and stability at the same time. So what we're gonna do, I'll show a few reps and now I'll explain some rationale. I'm gonna lay on my back with a band just above my knees. My feet are gonna be straight, but I want them outside of my knees. And then I'm gonna let my knees drop in. As far as this distance, it's whatever's comfortable for you. So if you have less hip range of motion, you might start a little narrower, go a little more, went a little wider, but I want the feet flat, okay? So I want the feet flat on the ground. I don't want them so wide that you're angled like here. So I still want your feet flat on the ground. From there, you're gonna get your knees bent more than 90 degrees, okay? That's gonna limit hamstring activation, and you're gonna push up and spread out. So you're gonna push through the base of your big toe and the inside part of your heel, and then you're gonna spread out at the top. You're looking to go as high as you can without your low back arching. So I'll show that from the side. Here I am, feet outside, still flat. I'm gonna turn my core on a little bit, lift up and spread. Okay, so I'm lifted, but I'm not arched. Okay, so I'm trying to create this action from my hips, not from my low back, and pushing, and my feet start to slide, so I'm gonna get back here, and pushing into the ground can help to get this leg drive rather than the hips. Okay, if this becomes easy, then we can go to a bench or coffee table, an elevated surface, and go with the same thing. I'm gonna get kind of arch my foot on the edge here, knees are in, feet are out. I'm gonna lift and spread, going as high as I can without my low back kicking in. All right? So I know this one looks a little weird, but here's what's going on. The glute max creates a motion that's called hip extension and external rotation. So that's the leg coming behind us and turning out. So if we want to optimize that, we want to start in a position of the opposite, hip flexion and internal rotation. The muscle that when it's in a slightly lengthened position is going to just have to work more to get to a shortened position. So here's my bicep, and obviously I'm going to do more work at my bicep when it starts lengthened and then goes to short than if I just started here and came to short. That can be a little trickier in the glutes, but we want some hip flexion and internal rotation going into hip extension. So in this position, when my feet are outside dropping in, that's hip internal rotation. And then when I bend my knees up, my hips up, this angle is hip flexion, right? Then when I push down and come up, the butt lifting is hip extension, the knees spreading is hip external rotation. And then I come in and back down. So we're using a bit of biomechanics here to hopefully get a strong activation of the back and side of the hips. Probably getting some hip abduction here, which is out to the side, not a bad thing. As your range of motion and strength improves, you can start to sneak your feet a little bit wider, a little bit wider. That's about my limit right there, because if I go further, then my feet are starting to tip. Okay, I can still get my knees together, I still have a flat foot, feet are straight. Now it looks a little weird, but then I press up and come out, and this starts to feel like a lot of work in the hips. So if you've been struggling to get some hip strength or hip activation, give this one a shot.